The great 17th century Maratha leader, Shivaji, is renowned for his military strategy and diplomacy. Engaging in a relentless struggle against the Mughal Empire under Aurangzeb, Shivaji stood firm at a time when the empire was at its pinnacle. His efforts were instrumental in transforming a modest estate into the formidable Maratha Empire, laying the foundation for resistance against the Mughal domination of India. The life of Shivaji offers a rich tapestry of lessons, from mastering the art of warfare and achieving victory in battles to implementing economic policies and administrative reforms during times of peace. Today we delve into the lessons that can be drawn from the life of Shivaji, highlighting the enduring relevance of his achievements and leadership. Shivaji's strategy in both warfare and diplomacy was deeply rooted in the continuous evaluation of the strategic balance of power. This approach entailed a thorough analysis of both his own strengths and those of his adversaries, a practice that Shivaji meticulously adhered to throughout his career. He would only engage an opponent when he was confident that the balance of power was decidedly in his favor. Otherwise, he was perfectly content to employ flattery and submission to appease an enemy or to avoid conflict altogether. Shivaji understood that engaging in a battle where defeat is likely is not an act of bravery or courage, but rather foolishness. For instance, Shivaji shrewdly decided not to engage in pitched battles with the Mughals. He understood that facing the formidable Mughal Empire head-on was a losing battle. Instead, he adopted a guerrilla warfare strategy, executing swift attacks, ambushes, and surprise raids. This approach allowed him to harass the enemy, disrupt supply lines, and then vanish into the mountains, thereby avoiding direct confrontation and conserving his resources and manpower. Shivaji was adept at tailoring his strategies to suit the situation, carefully selecting his battlefields and always assessing the strength of his opponents, whether they were the British, the Mughals, or others. Free from ego, he recognized that statecraft required flexibility and pragmatism. If an opponent's strength surpassed his, Shivaji would not hesitate to offer concessions and submission, thereby buying time to recover and rearm, all the while making incremental gains. Thus, one of his most notable qualities as a military leader and statesman was his ability to restrain himself as effectively as he launched bold and audacious campaigns. Shivaji's policy of alternating between rebellion and aggression when he was stronger than his opponent, and compliance, submission, and retreat when he was weaker, proved immensely beneficial. Periods of avoiding conflict enabled him to consolidate his gains and silently build strength, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike when the odds were firmly skewed in his favor. A campaign that exemplified Shivaji's shrewd strategic policy occurred when the Sultan of Bijapur dispatched an army of approximately 20,000 soldiers under the formidable leadership of Afzal Khan to subdue him. Shivaji, employing his characteristic tactics of deception, offered a pretense of peaceful submission in response, pretending to be terrified of Khan's army. He sent letter after letter adopting a conciliatory tone, flattering Khan into overconfidence. Shivaji's clever and fluent diplomacy won the day, convincing Afzal Khan to meet him beneath his fort. Affording Afzal Khan unimpeded passage into the wooded zone, they met on November 10, 1659, with Shivaji's forces concealed in the jungle on either side. After exchanging pleasantries and an embrace, Shivaji attacked Afzal Khan, fatally wounding him. Caught on unfavorable terrain, Khan's soldiers fought valiantly, but were ultimately overwhelmed in a devastating defeat. Shivaji's victory yielded a substantial bounty, including arms, artillery, 4,000 horses, and 65 elephants. The campaign showcased that a much larger force can be overcome by shrewdly maneuvering your opponent onto unfavorable ground, lowering their guard with flattery and then striking when they least expect it with ferocity. Understanding the enemy is as crucial as knowing one's strengths. The Chinese strategist Sun Tzu emphasized the importance of knowing both oneself and the enemy. Shivaji exemplified this principle. He knew when to engage, when to retreat, and when to strike. His strategies, whether defensive or offensive, were rooted in these principles. Shivaji realized early in his career the importance of leveraging the geography of his kingdom to devise defensive military strategies. Understanding that knowledge and utilization of terrain were key to crafting an effective defense, he skillfully employed the natural landscape to his advantage. The landscape of his kingdom was dotted with forts, strategically positioned to form the backbone of his defense strategy. These forts created a defensive network that was instrumental in fending off adversaries. Serving as key military outposts, they provided a defensive advantage and facilitated guerrilla warfare, enabling the Marathas to withstand the onslaught of larger, more conventional armies. Thus, when Shivaji perceived that his adversaries were gaining an advantage, he could retreat to one of his 370 strategically located forts, opting not to give battle. Opponents were left with few options. They could either face the daunting challenge of attacking a virtually impregnable fort, essentially fighting against nature itself, or start a prolonged and expensive siege. Most of the time they simply withdrew, allowing Shivaji to recuperate his strength and live to fight another day at a time and place of his choosing. Among the most renowned of these fortifications was the Raigad Fort. Perched atop a hill, its design exemplified Shivaji's meticulous planning and engineering skills, making it virtually impregnable. The complex layout, featuring multiple gates and watchtowers, rendered it nearly impossible for invaders to breach. In addition to strategically located forts, Shivaji also harnessed a power that all Indian empires until that point had ignored: the sea. Shivaji understood that the Mughals' negligence in leaving control of the coastline to European powers like the Portuguese, English, and Dutch would eventually weaken the empire, as these foreign powers would be able to control trade. Thus, Shivaji was one of the few rulers in India who took significant steps toward building the nation's first-ever navy. This initiative led to the construction and seizure of several strategically important sea forts along India's western coast. Sindhudurg Fort, situated off the Malvan coast on Kurte Island, stands as one of Shivaji's most significant naval accomplishments. Initiated in 1664 and completed within 3 years, the construction of Sindhudurg was a testament to Shivaji's dedication to rapid fortification. It featured strategically placed bastions, a network of interconnecting tunnels and robust fortified walls, rendering it an imposing defense against naval threats. These forts played a crucial role in shielding the Maratha kingdom from foreign invasions, as well as exploitation during trade negotiations. Under the Maratha Navy's protection, trade thrived, leading to economic growth and an expansion of maritime commerce. Thus, Shivaji would engage in battle with his opponents only when he was confident of a significant chance of victory. He employed a strategic blend of naval and land fortifications to underpin his defensive strategy, ensuring that adversaries would find it challenging to seize the initiative and launch an attack themselves. This approach meant that Shivaji entered battles on terrain of his choosing, and at times he deemed most advantageous, thereby tilting the odds in his favor. If we are to derive a strategic lesson from the life of Shivaji, it is to engage in battle only when victory is assured. Should you anticipate defeat, bide your time. Employ flattery and appeasement towards your enemy until the odds turn against them, and then strike with ferocity. Regardless of their strategic acumen and wisdom, every leader is destined to face defeat. Shivaji, after years of defiance, inevitably surrendered to the General Jai Singh, who escorted him to Agra, the capital of the Mughal Empire. Subjected to heavy fines, the forfeiture of several forts, and ultimately imprisonment by Aurangzeb, Shivaji managed a bold escape. Despite significant losses, time, men, materials, and the majority of his forts, Shivaji recognized Aurangzeb's distraction, with threats of invasion from the Shah of Persia and a rebellion by Afghan tribes. Therefore, Shivaji proposed peace, which was duly accepted, affording him the opportunity to regroup, recover, and plan a renewed campaign against the Mughals. Over the next 3 years, he refrained from actions that might provoke Mughal retaliation, focusing instead on comprehensive economic, administrative, and legislative reforms to address the inefficiencies plaguing his realm. He dismantled the corruption-ridden Jagir system, in which a middleman owning the land would collect revenue from peasants to pass on to the state. Shivaji replaced it with a structure staffed by purely administrative and clerical roles, ensuring each official received direct payment from the government. This effectively eliminated the often corrupt middleman and opportunities for misappropriation. Additionally, the tax structure was transformed. Taxes were levied at a flat rate based on land quality, ensuring a fair and systematic approach to taxation. This presented a stark contrast to the arbitrary tax levies of the time, which often left peasants destitute and starving. In a display of ingenuity that anticipated modern microfinance, Shivaji's administration issued interest-free loans, allowing those capable of farming yet lacking funds to join the workforce. Infrastructure development was also a priority for Shivaji's government, which undertook the construction of roads, bridges, and water management systems. These efforts aimed to improve connectivity, facilitate trade, and enhance the overall development of his kingdom. His reforms were driven by the vision of an economically self-sufficient state, grounded in the belief that a ruler's primary duty is to ensure the prosperity of his people. Shivaji aspired to transform his realm into a meritocracy, appointing Muslims to high-ranking positions, including Daulat Khan and Nur Khan Baig as leading generals in his army. Meanwhile, his laws of warfare emphasized the protection of women and children and the preservation of places of worship, marking a stark contrast to the repressive religious policies of Aurangzeb. The long period of reform allowed Shivaji the time and space to get his affairs in order and then begin another relentless attack once he had recuperated from his losses. From the art of war to the wisdom of peace, Shivaji's legacy is a testament to the power of strategic foresight, innovative reforms, and an unwavering commitment to the welfare of his people. Thank you for exploring this remarkable chapter of history with us. If you found inspiration in Shivaji's story, subscribe for more explorations into the past. Keep learning, keep questioning, and let the legacy of great leaders illuminate your path forward. I have been your host, Albert. Until next time.